Good afternoon. I'll start again. All right. Do you hear me now? All right. On behalf of Governor Mike DeWine, Lieutenant Governor John Husted, and ODOT Director Jack Marchbanks, I'd like to welcome Secretary Buttigieg here, as well as all of you to this historic announcement. I'm Bob Weaver. I'm the ODOT District 3 Deputy Director. Cover 8 counties here in north central Ohio, including Erie County. Since taking office, Governor Mike DeWine has been adamant that everything we do at ODOT focuses on improving safety as well as the quality of life for the people of Ohio. The US 6 Connectivity Corridor Project does just that. It accomplishes both. It'll enhance community connectivity between the cities of Sandusky and the city of Huron by constructing a new multi-use path along the roadway, as well as improving portions of the roadway. And it'll also improve access to employment, healthcare, educational, and recreational opportunities. This project will replace 5 existing intersections with modern roundabouts, which will provide a safer and more continuous flow of traffic through the intersections as well as the corridor. And often these intersections are busy and with out-of-town tourists coming in, and there are also a lot of traffic for people going to work and to school as well. The US 6 corridor is currently designated as a US bike route. The existing narrow shoulders make it difficult and treacherous for bicyclists today. By creating a new separated multi-use bike path, travel will be safer for bicyclists, pedestrians, as well as the motoring public. Additionally, work will include an extension of the Sandusky Bay pathway, which has a trailhead here at Shoreline Park. The multi-use path and extension of this Sandusky Bay pathway will provide access to Cedar Point Sports Center and provide countless opportunities to enjoy nature through kayaking, canoeing, bird watching, and more. The biggest roadblock to any project is funding. So I'd like to thank all of our local partners for their support, as well as Secretary Buttigieg and our federal partners, because without your support, this project would not be possible. Now we can begin work with public involvement, design, and roll into construction in 2026, with the project hopefully completing in the fall of 2027. Again, thank you all who have supported this project, and to the United States Department of Transportation for the grant.
Good afternoon. Thanks for everyone taking time out on this beautiful afternoon to be with us to welcome our new best friends from Washington. As exciting as this RAISE grant is, the potential for leverage it gives all of our local communities in the county is exponential. That is why investments in infrastructure can be game-changing. While they obviously help to move people in and around and through an area much more safely and efficiently, even more importantly, they open up new opportunities for public and private sector to create an additional open space, development parcels, and growth initiatives. I know that our public sector and private sector will commit to making these long-term plans to get the most out of this RAISE grant for generations to come. But what I think this day is really about is a celebration of cooperation. Cooperation these days is sometimes hard to achieve, but I think today shows us that by working together, even what seems impossible can still be achieved. We would like to thank ODOT District 3, especially Director Bob Weaver, Julie Cicello, and Leslie Farley, as well as our Erie Regional Planning team of Tim King, Carrie Whitaker, and our former County Planning Director, now Sandusky City Commissioner Steve Pajali, who put this complex application together. Many thanks to ODOT Columbus Central Office for supporting our dream, both with their expertise and finances. But without local financial support, I'm convinced this might not have come to be. Thanks to Huron City Manager Matt Lasko and Huron's Council, Cedar Fair, Matt Dietrich with the Ohio Real Development, and of course my fellow commissioners Steve Schaffner and Matt Old, whose financial contributions were able to come up with the all-important local match dollars. Just as important was the incredible cooperation between governments. Without our friends at the City of Sandusky, especially Eric Woopser and Mayor Dick Brady and the entire City Commission, the intermodal piece or the pathway connecting downtown Sandusky to Huron would not have been included. Their determination to see this project to fruition has been unwavering, and with the Route 6 improvements, this is closer than ever to completion. And of course, I've saved the best for last. Talk about cooperation. This would not have happened without the cooperation of our federal legislators and our new friends at the Department of Transportation. Thank you, Secretary Buttigieg and your team. Special thanks to Senator Rob Portman and Sherrod Brown, who couldn't be with us today. And of course, a big thank you to our Congresswoman, who is with us today, Marcy Kaptur. Marcy has served our region with amazing passion for over 35 years. That longevity is amazing because her job is not easy having to deal with people like me. Her leadership, and those of you that know me, that's why you're laughing, but her leadership in so many key areas keeps demonstrating itself time and time again. And with that, it's my great pleasure to introduce Marcy Kaptur.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Shenago. And let me offer my special words from the U.S. House of Representatives, particularly the Great Lakes delegation, to Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Thank you so much for traveling here today. I don't know when in American history we have had a Secretary of Transportation from our neighbor, Indiana, a Secretary of Housing and Urban Development from Cleveland, Ohio, Marcia Fudge, and a Secretary of Energy from the state of Michigan, Secretary Jennifer Granholm. Think about that a second. Just think about that trifecta for us. And so we have to do our job, and I want to thank Commissioner Shenago for the kind of leadership that he's exhibited over many, many years, working along with the District Director of Transportation as well as the State Director of Transportation and all of the citizenry here to be visionary and think about progress for America rooted right here. $24.5 million is not chicken feed. It is an enormous award. I think the Secretary will indicate we have probably 166 RAISE grants across the country that have been granted. There weren't that many. And you have been a winner here in Sandusky for Route 6. Boy, do I know Route 6 after all these years. And the kind of improvements that are possible and have been long overdue. But also for the new pathway from Sandusky to Huron. And doing justice to this magnificent lakefront. Secretary Buttigieg well knows the southern rim of Lake Michigan. Well, here we have the southern rim of Lake Erie, the warmest beaches, the warmest parts of the Great Lake, the most fragile. And I see Senator Portman has his Lake Erie hat on. I know how much he loves the wildlife refuges and the conservation movement up here in this part of the state. I dare say not very many people south of Findlay even know what we're talking about. But you do, and we've appreciated your cooperation these many years. I'm going to grab him up here to the microphone just for a second because I want to prove to the public that though we don't vote alike 100% of the time, somehow we're part of a coalition that has found a big middle in the country, and we better keep finding it for the sake of the nation. So today we celebrate progress, and frankly, I wish I had known you would be here. I'd bring some kind of a big, I don't know, one of those big awards you give to race car drivers for serving us these many years in the Senate and always distinguishing yourself. You're an honest member of the Senate, and he never sought anything for himself. He just tried to help Ohio and the world, really, in his capacity. So it's one way of me publicly expressing to you, thank you for your service to the nation. Thank you for your service to liberty. Thank you for your service to Ohio and for never forgetting those of us, even though you come from way down in the Ohio River watershed, for those of us up here on the Great Lakes. You never forgot us, Senator. You never did. Thank you very, very much. I want to say a word here and then I'll introduce the Secretary.
Well, first of all, congratulations to everybody. This is fantastic. As Marcy Kaptur said, well, these are very competitive grants. Right, Mr. Secretary?
That's right.
So he's happy to be here because he's with some happy folks today, but he made thousands of others unhappy because your application was so awesome. And I think it was good for a number of reasons. And you've heard about some of that today. Pat just talked about it some, but it's about collaboration, isn't it? So it's about everybody coming together and deciding we're going to get this done, even though it might not be the perfect proposal, for the county, for Erie County, or for Sandusky itself, or for Norfolk Southern, or for other private actors in this. But the goal was to get something done. And 24 plus million bucks is a significant investment in our future. The pathways we're on right now, the bike pass is part of it. We didn't get everything we wanted there, frankly, so we can come back for more later. But in terms of the basic Route 6 improvements and to deal with the real issue of tourism being so important to this area and the congestion and the concerns and the safety concerns with regard to Route 6, this was incredibly important. So to all the communities who were involved at every level, congratulations. I was the Republican negotiator on the infrastructure package. And one thing we wanted to do was to increase these kinds of grants called raise grants because they are so flexible. And I assume the secretary likes them too because of that, because you can use them for various things, including pathways, including connecting to the new causeway going out to Cedar Point, including highways, different kinds of infrastructure. So I'm really pleased to see that increase in funding is being used in such an appropriate way here in Ohio. As was said earlier, this was also an effort that ODOT was very involved with. And Bob, congratulations to you. We are privileged to have with us today two members of the governor's cabinet. One is Jack Marchbanks, who's standing right behind me here. And Jack comes through time and time again, projects all around the state. We tend to find ourselves together these days because he's a doer. He really gets it done. I know he was pushing Bob really hard for this project. But second, we have Mary Mertz with us today. Mary, where are you? Okay. Mary is head of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, ODNR. And she was in that helicopter that went by a moment ago with me, looking, as Congressman Kapster said, looking at some of the sites along the lake here where we have also brought federal funds in, but working with the local communities, made them into public, private, local, state, and federal projects. And this is through the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, GLRI. And as you know, this bay's had its issues with the algal blooms, invasive species. And so some of these projects are going to be really important to dealing with that and dealing with pollution in general. So today we're kind of on a tour looking at how some of this federal money is being used. And it's really exciting. Marcy Kaptur's been a champion for this in the House. And we've been able to keep it nonpartisan and to really help the lake. We had another $1 billion put into these projects through ODN, through the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative in the infrastructure legislation. And now we're seeing again the results of that and how this will make a big difference for our area. So the pathway and the Route 6 improvements are exactly what is needed right now. We're excited about it, and we appreciate you, Mr. Secretary, being here to announce this, and most importantly, for you taking a careful look at it, and with all the other projects you had, deciding that this was a high priority for you and for the country. We think you made a good decision. We're going to prove you right. Next time you come out, you'll see the results of it. With that, please welcome all the way from Washington, D.C. He probably came in a jet, not a helicopter, but our Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg.
Thanks so much, Senator, and thank you to everybody for coming out to join us, making us feel so welcome and so at home. We're in the middle of just a fantastic tour across the country, celebrating just a handful of the places that we have been able to support thanks to this funding through that bipartisan infrastructure law. And yes, I'm proud to be a member of the unofficial Great Lakes Caucus of the United States Cabinet, and feel so close to home and just so pleased to be here. So pleased to be with the team from the Ohio DOT. I know you got a lot on your plate, so Bob, Jack, all of your colleagues, congratulations on this award. Thank you for your partnership with our team on so many things that you work on. Commissioner, so pleased to be with you and to see the local leadership that has helped to make this a reality. As you noted, a lot of different players bringing their resources to the table, giving us the confidence that this was the right place to entrust federal resources to. I'm with my colleague, Assistant Secretary Christopher Coase, who oversees the processes that include the raise grants, and he and his team work so hard going through the information in a very, very rigorous process to get to this result. And just to be with so many local leaders, and particularly to be with Representative Marcy Kaptur, who you should know never misses a chance to advocate for this region and this district. And I'm talking about whether I'm calling her about a policy issue and expect to hear about it, or whether I just happen to find myself sitting next to her on the plane and get an earful about all of the things that that this region needs and how we can be helpful, which of course I would expect nothing less. So pleased to be here with you, and so thankful for your support. Senator Portman, thank you so much for your bipartisan leadership in getting this bipartisan infrastructure law done, something that had been talked about a lot in the past. Infrastructure weeks came and went without results. And even this bill was declared dead a good 5, 10, 15 times before it got done. But you and your colleagues stuck with it, and we're so thankful. Just want to make sure everybody understands there is a direct connection, a direct cause and effect connection between the legislation that Senator Portman helped to negotiate, that Senator Brown supported, that Representative Kaptur supported, that the president signed, and the announcement we're making here today. We are here because we are now at the point where we can put these resources to work, and we're thrilled to be doing it. We know that this law is going to make such a big difference for so many people across Ohio and across the country. And we're just thrilled to be seeing those numbers leap off the page and actually get turned into real projects all around the country. And I do want to emphasize, as was mentioned a couple of times here, how competitive this program was. We got $13 billion of applications for $2 billion of funding. And that $2 billion is more than we've ever had to work with thanks to this legislation. But that still means you have a lot to be proud of if you have one of the program's projects that made the cut, because we couldn't say yes to everybody. But we got to say yes more than ever before, thanks to this bipartisan partnership that got us here. And thanks to the community-driven vision that made for such a compelling application. And that's the entire philosophy of the RAISE program, the understanding that all of the best designs and ideas aren't going to come from Washington, but more of the funding should. And that's what we're able to do thanks to this program. Sandusky is one of 166 communities across the country, including several in Ohio, getting that good news this month, coming through that program. And what I've most enjoyed as I've traveled the country looking at some of the places we're putting those dollars to work is the enthusiasm and the local commitment that is driving a sense of passion, even if you're not an infrastructure wonk like I am. People have come together with a sense of passion, not just understanding about why these things matter. And you've got a very powerful example here in Sandusky. So I am thrilled to be here to formally celebrate the award of nearly $24.5 million to the Ohio Department of Transportation for the US 6 Connectivity Corridor and the Sandusky Bay Pathway. This is a corridor that is critically essential to the local and state economy, and this funding is going to go toward replacing dangerous intersections with roundabouts, installing part of the Sandusky Bay Pathway, creating a walking and biking path along US 6 and Rye Beach Road. There's so many people who rely on this corridor every year, commuters heading to work, tourists and locals alike going to Cedar Point. I've had some fun explaining to my non-Midwestern friends what Cedar Point is and why it matters so much. Families visiting nature preserves with kids on the weekend. And yet for too long, that journey has been more difficult and more dangerous than it ought to be. Some 55 trains pass by here every day on tracks that run just a stone's throw from the road. And it's a corridor that unfortunately has some of the most dangerous rail crossings in the entire state, with too many deadly crashes and too many traffic jams. And this is a project that addresses all of those issues. And I can tell you from my experience at home, if you get on US 6 and drive about 3.5 hours, make 2 right turns, you'll be at the house I grew up in. And we started doing roundabouts in South Bend. They take a little getting used to, but we also know that they reduce serious crashes, injuries, and deaths. And the new walking and biking path is going to mean that it's easier and safer to get from one place to another, even without a car, all while enjoying this wonderful lake view. And taken together, these improvements represent less traffic and less congestion for everyone along a corridor that supports an $11 billion tourism industry and some 10,000 jobs here and everywhere, from Cedar Fair to Mucci Farms to BGSU Firelands and so many other locations that are part of the economic lifeblood of this region. So from the largest cities to the smallest communities, these grants are supporting people in every state and every part of the country. And as much as I'd love to walk you through the 166 projects, I promise to refrain from that. But I do want to give you a little bit of a feel. Right here in Ohio, we're also funding bike infrastructure to reconnect communities in Cincinnati, building a new car, bus, and bicycle corridor in Marietta, rebuilding rundown streets in Mansfield, with better lighting and new curbs and safer crosswalks, and even investing in their pipes and sewer infrastructure. Just on this trip, we started in Tampa, where a new berth is going to create more cargo capacity and support our supply chains, and then went on up to Tulsa, where an old highway design cut off a street, 51st Street, dead ends on both sides into the highway. Now we're going to reconnect it up. Then we were able to go to Nevada, where we were yesterday, setting up a rail yard that's going to amount to an inland port in the middle of the desert, helping supply chains that will actually benefit the economy all the way here in Ohio. We're here now. This morning we were in Minneapolis looking at a Lake Street corridor and how they're going to benefit from new bus investments. Tomorrow in northern New Hampshire, we'll be seeing how a community there is going to benefit from what it means to their downtown economic development to put these dollars to work. This is what it means to have those federal dollars go toward making everyone better off. So I just want to put this in context before closing, that we're thrilled with the momentum that we have right now. And again, so much of this has come with support from your federal delegation. Of course, we're thrilled that the president signed the Inflation Reduction Act to reduce costs for families on everything from prescription drugs to energy bills, to improving their homes. We're delighted to see the largest investment ever in the fight against climate change. We're especially proud of the bipartisan support for the PACT Act. Now, I believe Susan Zeiler's here somewhere, who I met. There you are. So good to see you again. We were there with the president. We signed it. I said, "Where are you from?" She said, "Sandusky." I said, "I think I'm going to be there pretty soon." So thanks for coming by. So great to be with you. And more importantly, of course, it was so great when you were there, as we were finally doing right by American veterans like Heath Robinson. So thank you for joining us again. More competitiveness for the U.S. economy with competition with players like China through the CHIPS and Science Act, and so many more good things going on right now. That's what it looks like to come together and get things done. As every Midwesterner knows, it's the spirit that we wish prevailed a little bit more in Washington. But now we have so many good things going on, and so many people here are a part of it. So no pressure, but as the senator said, we are hoping and expecting that every expectation will be met and exceeded here with this great project. And I know that our partners on the ground are going to do just that. So congratulations to everybody who's part of this, and let's get down to work. Thanks again for having us over.
If you want to present this.
Yeah. All right. Should we do a couple of photos? All right. We decided not to be subtle about the benefits.
Should we step in front of the
Yeah,
podium?
let's go.
And then
Let's
Rick.
go over this way. We can just do a couple of photos. Try to take that down and cash it. I don't know how to. Oh, okay. All right. Who's keeping? Okay, great. Sounds like we have a little bit of time for questions, and our quarterback for that will be, I believe, my colleague Ben right here. Well, the projects that stood out were ones that really met a number of policy goals at once. For example, two things we talk about and work on a lot in the department are safety and economic development. And you can see both of those benefiting here. The improvements to those intersections and the reduction of dangerous situations at those railroad crossings, that's a major safety benefit. But also, those crossings create backups that snarl traffic for literally millions of travelers who come out here, whether they're going to Cedar Point or any of the other places I mentioned. So when you see that kind of overlap of several good things happening at once, all in one project, plus the strong local alignment and support that you see across different levels of government for how to get something done, and a community bringing its own resources to the table to match ours, all of those help make this be one of the most competitive projects in a very competitive pool. Well, I think a program only works if it works for everybody. That means making sure that communities, urban, suburban, and rural alike, see the benefit. And that's part of what we've tried to emphasize even on this tour. I can't think of two more different places from each other than Tampa and the Port Tampa, where we were, and Fernley, Nevada, a small community out in the desert in North Nevada, except what they both had in common was that they both have something to do with supply chains. Similarly here, this is a very different community from where I'll be tomorrow or where I was yesterday. But that's the whole point of this funding, finding ways to meet communities where they are. And, good policy is policy that works for everybody, whether you live in the smallest town or county, or whether you live in the biggest city. Yeah.
My experience, and I think the Secretary would affirm this, is that when the local community gets involved and provides more commitment, in other words, a bigger local match, it helps the project. We've had projects in Ohio that have gone through 2 or 3 rounds, and finally we figured out we get an advantage by having more buy-in locally. And it makes sense because the federal dollar ought to go where the local community really thinks it's important. And I want to thank Huron. I want to thank Sandusky. I want to thank Erie County. And I want to thank Cedar Point, because you all stepped up in big ways. And this is a significant match. I think, Secretary, you'd say this is one of your better projects in terms of the local match. But I think that's the way it ought to work with federal dollars. And you came through. And so you deserve it. Now it's our job to be sure that the confidence that the Secretary has placed in us is well placed. Got to be sure we do it right and use the funds appropriately as good stewards of that federal tax dollar. But congratulations on stepping up. I think it made a huge difference.
Excuse me. I wanted to add to what the senator said and thank the secretary for coming here to the Great Lakes region, a region often missed at the national level. And I want to thank Commissioner Shenago for his ongoing leadership in so many ways to actually reinvest and create new progress in a region that was battered economically in the last century and had plenty of its hits in this new century. And that somebody is finally noticing what we've been trying to do to rebuild the economy and the underlayments of this region. I also want to say I represent many, many communities where, because of that washout, that economic washout, the local staff just is not in place to even prepare the applications. And so I want to thank Eric Wobster. I don't even know if he's in the audience today, but here in this county, in Erie County, if I could have 10 Eric Wobsters across the district I represent, we could bring home billions of dollars of federal money. Right now, Mr. Secretary, we don't even have the people to plan our new rail investments with all of the money in the infrastructure legislation. I'm so deeply worried about that. I'm deeply worried about cross-lake transportation with our closest neighbor, Canada. We don't have planners who are helping us on this. So I wanted the secretary to hear that, because I've made pleas to him, help us access the dollars that are actually in the bill that we passed for the American people, including those from the Great Lakes region. So thank you very much.
See what I mean? She's always making sure that I get the message. Sounds like one more, Ben. That's right. Yeah, again, we love a project that has multiple benefits on multiple levels. And as you know, when you make improvements on congestion or some of these proven safety countermeasures like roundabouts, that also has a pollution and emissions benefit that's going to benefit the air quality in this region and, of course, going to benefit us in our race to fight climate change. And a good example of that is a well-placed, well-designed roundabout means you're not stopping and starting, waiting at that red light or waiting to make a left turn forever. You're able to have that traffic handled in a way that maybe slows you down for a bit as you enter that circle and then brings you right back out without that kind of stop and go. Look, we've got to fight these climate issues with everything we've got, and that means making sure on everything from the design of a roundabout to making sure we have a made in America EV revolution that creates more American jobs on American soil, producing that kind of equipment and everything in between, that we're thinking about this all at once. This is a wonderful opportunity to do that. It's a side benefit on just about every project we've looked at, same with the cargo and the goods movement fluidity. You know, and we can bring on-dock rail out to a port. One of the benefits of that people don't think about is it means maybe fewer trucks have to be involved getting that container from the ship to the railhead, and that means less emissions too. So all of these objectives fit together, and it's one of the things we love about a well-designed project, and we're pleased to support just as many as that funding will allow us to do. Thanks again for coming out. Great being with everybody here. Thank you.